Refuting the Apophis. I'm your host, Jared Wheeler. There's something I've been wanting to talk about for a few weeks now. And I've had questions before because I bounce into it here and there, and I kind of wanted to discuss this as a whole topic. I think it's a really good point, especially in pointing out timelines and things. And it's about the dwarf star system Nibiru, okay? So I'm going to discuss that in this video and the different things that I know and stuff like that and I've heard about throughout the years, all right? And I don't know exactly how I'm going to lay this out, but I'm going to just kind of point this out as how it points to timelines and different things like this. And all right, let's get started. Here we go. So a couple weeks ago I did my last video, right? And I heard some comments in the section that God's not coming back anytime soon. And one of them was a few of them were interesting, and it was about Apophis, all right? If you guys don't know what that is, it's an asteroid that's circling around right now and might come back and hit us in 2029, all right? And Tom Horn's pushing it big time, all right? And in the comment, it was, I don't think God's coming back anytime soon. Tom Horn, a good Christian man, all right, this is quoting, has pointed out that Apophis is coming in later 2029, and because of that, this will probably have something to do with wormwood, and this will be around maybe the time that Christ comes back. So we still have quite a ways to go. Something along those lines, right? And I am 100% against this, okay? I've been against the Apophis thing the entire time. It's a joke, honestly. It's a joke. And I'm going to explain why here right now. All right, this little pebble, Apophis, right, is yet again another downplay of the severe destruction that's coming in the tribulation. Constantly over and over again, especially from post-tribbers and mid-tribbers. Oh, the tribulation won't be so bad. I'm a tough guy. I'm going to make it through blah, blah, blah. I've got my little bunker, and I'm good to go, right? And you hear it time and time again, all right? You guys know who I am, all right? And survivalist stuff that I do, taking people out, absolutely love combat, all right? You couldn't pay me any amount to go through the tribulation because of how terrible it is, okay? I am completely conscious of that, and it's going to be worse than anything that I can imagine, all right? I wouldn't even want to play that game, and yet all the time you hear people downplaying it, and this comes into the whole Apophis thing, all right? Oh, it might take out a few satellites and hit the ocean. There could be some destruction, blah, blah, blah. Oh, it's wormwood and the asteroid from the second trumpet blowing all in one, blah, blah, blah. It is completely ridiculous and totally downplayed, and I can't stand it, right? And I happen to like Tom Horn, but I'm completely against this idea. Story goes like this. Sometime in the past here, Tom Horn woke up in the night and heard the word Apophis, and then he started looking it up and the asteroid, and he's had this epiphany that that's when it's going to come. And since none of them seem to have any idea of how to look at the tribulation and when the things take place, they put it, sometime in the second half, or blah, 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 and it's going to be one and the same and all this other nonsense, all right? And I don't agree with any of that, all right? The other night, so last week, I woke up at 3:02. I heard my name, Jared, okay? And it wasn't anything godly. I didn't feel the presence of God or anything like that. It was just something. I've had things like that before happen plenty of times. All right, I'm a light sleeper as it is. I hear something and my name gets called or something else, and I answer it only to wake myself up by talking in my sleep, okay? And my name was called out, Jared, all right? Nothing more, nothing serious. I said, what do you want? I'm trying to sleep here. And I woke myself up in the process of saying that, okay? The reason I bring that up, the very main reason why that even might have happened is so that I can use that as a reference to what we're talking about right now. Maybe God gave me that for that specific reason. Tom Horn waking up with the word Apophis in his mind doesn't mean jack, all right? It could, but in this case, I don't think that it does. I want to get into the history of this planet Nibiru system, okay? This Nibiru isn't just a planet, okay? From Sumerian texts and all these other things, cultures and stuff that have talked about this for time, including the Anunnaki being on them, fallen angels and stuff like that. And it's a 36-year, 4,000-year cycle that it takes 3,600 year to 4,000 year cycle that it takes through our solar system, and a huge oblong path that it goes through. It's due to be showing up sometime here real soon. And ancients and texts like that have talked about it before. So when new media and stuff like that they have control over tries to downplay it, I'm totally against it. I actually do believe in it quite a bit. And I think there's references in the Bible for it, and I'm going to point them out right now. But I want to get into the very beginning of things, okay? The moon, when you look up at it and you see gigantic craters, these things are hundreds of miles wide on it. The moon is taking massive blasts, all right? Mars, if you guys don't know, the whole northern crust of Mars is 2 miles lower than the southern hemisphere's crust. Like the whole northern hemisphere of the planet has been blown into outer space, all right? You guys know about the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. There's a possibility, I'm going to point it out here, that was a planet at a time before the flood called Rahab, all right? And possibly Venus and other areas like that, including asteroid impacts we have on Earth. I want to point something out here very easily to observe, that you might not think about. For those that know that the Earth and the universe is 6,000 years old, all right, by God's creation with in accordance to what the Bible has pointed out, these things, these marks, these disasters on these planets had to happen at a certain time here, right? And they're very, very catastrophic. Since you don't have millions of years to work with, when did they happen? The answer is it happened at the same time that the flood happened, okay? The moon didn't come with authentic battle action on it. Mars didn't come with 2 mile lower crust. These things were blowing off. The structures and things that are on Mars, including pyramids and other things that have been found out there that NASA and other people keep secret, have tons of water erosion and damage. Mars used to be a fallen angel Nephilim oasis, all right, that possibly orbited closer to the Earth before the flood, all right? This actually had water and everything else on it, oceans, all right? And it was blasted so hard by 3 asteroids in the southern hemisphere that it literally, boom, blew the northern crust off into the solar system, all right? That's why we have rocks they find down in Antarctica and stuff like that they say are made up of the same molecular structure as rocks that they have got on Mars or they've been able to analyze on Mars, all right? Same with the moon and its action with the huge scars and concentric marks. Concentric marks look like ripples around the outside of a crater that start to happen after 150-mile wide craters are made from asteroid impacts. Of course, to bring this into another point here, those don't happen unless it's a hollow object, okay? Scientists say that is impossible to happen unless it's basically like a beach ball. This got me into the whole looking into years ago of the hollow earth story, all right? That I was looking around into ever since my early 20s, okay? And I have seen these concentric marks on asteroid impacts from satellite imagery and stuff like that off of the coast of Spain, halfway on land and halfway in the Atlantic, but underneath it, back where there would have been land before the flood, all right? These concentric marks, all right? These are huge, gigantic asteroid impacts, and the only time that would have been that way, wouldn't have thrown dust completely in the atmosphere for years and years, is the time of the flood. And when the flood came out, it basically grabbed all that and turned it into mud, threw it down from the sky, and the very water and stuff that wasn't in the sky before was able to clean the whole mess up at a faster pace, all right? And this all happened during the flood. There was more than just one asteroid impact that happened on Earth that was big, all right? And these are big enough that they would be global killers, okay? The reason they're not is because it was right then. It's what set the crust loose. All right. This is why Noah, when it speaks of the flood in Genesis and stuff like that, there's more water coming out from underneath the crust. Right. I've discussed this many times before, and I mean a lot more. This is why you have underneath the Mediterranean over 200 cities that they have at the bottom, down around the Black Sea. 200 cities. The known city between Iceland and the UK. Okay. These are 3 miles under ocean water. Scientists will admit if all of the ice caps melt on Earth, it's going to bring up the ocean levels around 120 feet, okay? That's nothing compared to 3 miles of ocean water, which I've said Russia has dug down and found pockets of water that are 100 miles thick in certain locations, okay, in the crust. There's more water under the crust than there is on the surface of the Earth, right? Well, Earth being slightly different in its build, this catastrophic event that hit it at the same time as the other planets are getting blasted was this Nibiru system, all right? It came through. Whether God whipped it up just for the purpose of judgment, or he had already built it at the beginning to storm through because he knows the time of everything. Maybe he pre-built it, who knows? But he sent this thing through the solar system, and partially from destroying Mars and the whole Nephilim fallen angel oasis up there, the planet between Mars and Jupiter, Rahab, totally annihilated and turned into, he shotgunned it basically. And then the moon, of course, which has huge craters and things on it as well, including Earth and stuff like that that has remnants of it. All right, this all happened at one time. All right, this isn't from a little asteroid that might take out a couple of satellites and do some pretty good damage on Earth. All right, this is from something so catastrophic it literally blasted our solar system and changed everything, including adding the tilt and stuff like that that we have for seasons on Earth. All right, and it's due to be coming back. All right, so I want to point that out right now. All right, it wasn't anything small, and it all happened at once. And you have the evidence for this happening by the very planets and the destruction that happened to them. Knowing, if you are a Christian listening to this, and that things happen in a short period of time, which I've pointed out multiple times, just look at the Earth's population and the doubling rate, and how we can only go back 4,000 years. All right, and a number of other things, including, like I say, the water coming back, and looking at the population rate, that those cities and stuff that were created, all right, that are under these huge amounts of water, can't go back that far. It happened relatively soon, not that long ago. And there's only one story, there's only one narrative that goes along with this. Every other story out there, Sumerian text and all this, has hundreds of thousands of years and stuff like that. And that goes against the very scientific data that we have on population doubling and things like that. And there's only one that goes with the shortest period of time and is actually accurate with that. And that's the Bible narrative, okay? Just so you know, all right? So I want to get started with that. Okay. I want to go to Job 9:13, all right? In the King James, this is the one time when I don't actually like the King James version of this, all right? And I'm going to read this. King James 9:13, Job. If God would not withdraw his anger, the proud helpers do stoop under him, all right? It's kind of an English translation to the word Rahab, which has been interpreted as proud, all right? But there's other interpretations that I like a little bit more here. Here's the complete Jewish Bible. Same verse. God will not withdraw his anger. Even Rahab's supporters submit to him. Okay? This is very interesting, and it goes back to the whole correlation between things that are happening in celestial bodies, planets, and stars. They're almost writing the same story that is happening here, a dual meaning and talking to. Rahab being a word that can be interpreted as proud, all right, is very similar to talking about Satan or Lucifer and his whole proud persona that he takes on, okay? And this is very interesting because it says, God will not withdraw his anger, even Rahab's supporters submit to him, all right? It shows the very submission of demons and fallen angels and things like that and how they run at his name when you line up like rebuking aliens and things like that, all right? It shows that connection. But the whole proud idea on it, you know, like I say, I believe this absolutely has a dual meaning, and it's also speaking of that possible planet that's been in that used to be in the solar system between Mars and Jupiter, right? And you've probably possibly heard Steve Quayle talk about this before, and I'm going to have to agree on this. I definitely think that there was a planet there at some time, and it very well might have been the inhabitant for an habitation place for fallen angels, right? I already know Mars was, and they, like I say, they turned that into a little oasis for themselves. But let's go to another verse here. This is in Job 26:12. All right, and I want to read this again. Let's say, we'll go in the King James first. He divided the sea with his power, and by his understanding he smiteth through the proud. Okay? Let's see. I'm going to do this one on... I'm going to do this on NIV instead this time. I think it gives a better interpretation of it. All right. By his breath the skies become fair. He has pierced the gliding serpent. All right. Oh, that's the one right below it. I'm going for verse 12 here. By his power he churned up the sea. By his power he cut Rahab to pieces. Okay. Yet again, showing the connection between Lucifer and the judgment that's coming to him, and how he's under submission, you know, absolute authority by God, control, but also a planetary body possibly being destroyed at the same time, all right, before the flood. or right at the time of the flood. And this is 2 times it's spoken of. There is another reference to this, and I believe it's in Psalms 89, but I'm not going to read that right now. I just wanted to point this out here, that I totally believe that there was, at a time period before the flood, a planet between Mars and Jupiter, and I think it was possibly called Rahab, okay? With the damage that Mars took, totally blasting that thing off, taking all the ocean water out of it that it had, and as well as the moon, and what happened here on Earth by splitting the crust open and literally ejecting all that water out. Something catastrophic happened, and it wasn't the size of a pebble that was thrown through the atmosphere, okay? This was a gigantic shotgunning of something of absolutely enormous proportions, which I believe is the planet Nibiru system. Now, do I know that this is real? Yes, I do. I absolutely know this is real for a fact, okay? I'm going to point out why. During the early 50s, I can't think, it was either somebody in NASA or another, it was most likely NASA, but I got to listen to a guy, and they were able to observe this this planet system, this dwarf star. It's basically translucent, has some sort of iron or whatever atmosphere, iron oxide sort of dust particles or whatever around it, and has like 7 planets that go around it. I believe one of them is actually called Nibiru or whatever, but the whole system gets the name, okay? And they were able to observe it. It looks like it has wings, and it's from the dust and stuff that comes off it as it's moving through space. And he talked about it, and from what they knew from when they were looking at it through the telescopes, from what they could deduct, it would be there sometime, and this was in the early 50s, somewhere in around 50 or so years. And that's all that they were told or know. All right? With my abilities, is this person telling the truth when they were telling the story? Yes, they were. All right? Right there, that gives it absolute credential for me, okay? I know that they weren't lying, they weren't making anything up. This is a first-hand account and actually being able to see it. Since that time, me finding people that have actually been able to look at it and observe it through telescopes so that I can vet them has proved to be extremely difficult, okay? It's always he said, she said, there was a computer thing that I read, blah, 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 and no first-hand accounts. This person was a first-hand account, which is what I look for when I'm vetting somebody, okay? So if I can look inside their mind, look inside their heart, and see what they're about, all right? This person was telling the truth, so I know the system is for real. And I can compare it to what I see up in the sky, including Mars, the moon, the asteroid belt, and the huge asteroid impacts that have happened on Earth, all right, that could have only happened at one time, all right, within this 6,000 year time period, okay? It wasn't no one asteroid coming through here. It was a gigantic shotgunning, which gives absolute credential to the story that there is a body out there that comes through every 4,000 years or so, 3,600 years, and it literally levels everything. It just blasts everything in its path, causing destruction and asteroids and impacts, okay? What does this have anything to do with in the first place? This is going to be trumpet judgments, right? In the tribulation, 1 through 4. But you start seeing the effects of it in the 6th seal, okay? When the seals are broken, all right? And that's why I'm bringing this all around, why it's important, why it's something that's going to be expected here soon, and why it's a real thing, okay? And it's something that they've been watching now for quite some time, all right? So the very fact that there are huge amounts of damage from something that was gigantically, that came through the solar system, we have as proof. We know that the length of time does not go back millions of years, and this didn't happen over the course of billions of years, all right? You know that as a Christian, okay? This could have happened only at one time, all right? This is giving you the evidence that there is something out there and it is real, even though they are suppressing the living crap out of it, okay? Back to my point, finding people that have actually seen it. It's not something that I've been able to do very easily. It's been very, very difficult, all right? That one person that I got to talk, or that I got to listen to and hear that was telling the truth, all right? There was actually a first-hand account. I've only had that happen, and it's always from early stories, back when they were first discovering it back in the early 50s and such, okay? Since that time, they have managed to suppress it and redirect that in a way that I only hear backstories and stuff like that. I don't get to the source. Just recently, though, it was about a month or so ago, I was able to listen to somebody who had a talk, and it was with CIA, FBI, or whatever else that it was, and this was a first-hand account with their story talking about the Nibiru system, and they were told, when asked, is the population of the Earth going to get a warning? And they were told, no, they're not. It's just going to show up one day, and everything's going to change. The world's going to change. Everybody's going to know it and be freaking out. But to cause less hysteria for the plans and stuff that they're doing, which we know is to take over the world and everything like that, they're not even going to tell them about it. It's just going to show up. When vetting this person, they're telling the truth. That's the only other time, and it's something recently that I've heard, okay? They know about it. It is showing up. The whole discussion that happened in 2016-17 where Obama took all his liberal buddies down to New Zealand and they had the meeting. It was discussing this and how they're going to be protected underground when the thing comes through. They know it's going to pelt the Earth with tons of little asteroids and things like that, among other things. And it's going to do tons of damage outside the Earth. They're going to let the populace have this happen to them, all right? This is going to help with their global depopulation agenda anyway. So they're just going to allow it to happen. They know about it, all right? Why is this important in other things? The whole point that they picked between 2021 and 2030, I don't think was a coincidence at all. I think they know the timeline better than anybody. They have all the scientific data. They have all the control of the telescopes, okay? They know where it's at. They've been keeping an eye on it the same way the Lucifer telescope on Mount Graham in Arizona at the Vatican controls an infrared telescope, which is what you have to view this thing in because it's so transparent. You have to look at it in the infrared scope where you can see heat and different things like that. But the thing will sneak up on you. It could be very close right now, and until it's right there in your atmosphere, I don't think that we personally see it, but you will start to have the effects of it, all right? The same way that I pointed out in the hollow Earth, all right, and I showed the video diagrams of how the solar system, the galaxies, the stars, and everything like that, they're all held together by magnetic fields, all right? When these magnetic fields collide and come into things like our solar system, which is more magnetic fields upon magnetic fields, it's the same thing as throwing a magnet or pushing one that has a repulsory effect on the other ones. It's going to push things out of the way. It's going to change things up. All right, when this happens, it'll start to change things around. All right, enter the sixth seal. When this thing starts to swing in close enough, when it actually does happen, the sixth seal, there's a worldwide earthquake, and all the islands get totally leveled. They go under the ocean again. Everything gets released at once. All right, this really sounds like Roke's Law to me. Roke's Law is a hypothetical theory that they have that if a bigger body in the solar system, a bigger planet or a larger, comes close in proximity to another one that's smaller, it basically loosens the joints of the smaller one, and it can totally disassemble itself. The gravitational pull, which would actually be magnetic pull and other things like that, literally disassemble the thing. All right, when this thing comes through, my guess is scientifically that's exactly what happens. It will loosen all the plates at once and allow for a worldwide earthquake, all right, that is spoken of in the sixth seal of Revelation during the tribulation, all right? It's going to be absolutely disastrous. And that's before you even get to the judgments of it, all right, where it's fire and brimstone coming down mixed, all right, which sounds exactly like what the Obama administration was talking about and the Hillary Clinton's meeting that she secretly had not too long after Obama's, where there was asteroids and everything pelting the earth and shotgunning everything, all right? And then after that, you have the huge asteroid that has been mistaken for Apophis that hits and takes out 1/3 of the oceans and all the ships and everything like that. And then another one that is wormwood, all right, and it hits bodies of water, whatever, that cause radiation poisoning or sickness or whatever else. And then the blotting out of the stars, the sun, and everything like that, okay? Before you even get to the fifth trumpet and stuff like that. My guess is the whole thing's moving fast. By breaking down the timeline that we've done before with the fifth trumpet, by this time this thing looks like it's over, all right? And they open up CERN, the portals and stuff like that, you're at the 2-year mark. And the sixth seal is when the thing starts to show up for the first place, all right? Which can happen sometime between a year to a year and a half. Okay, that means you have around 6 to 8 months for this thing coming through the solar system and then exiting back out, or at least out of the way that we're in, which means if it is moving that fast, it can be in and out of here like that. It means it can sneak up just overnight, all right? And that's kind of what I expect this thing to happen and to do. Tons of damage at a relatively extremely fast pace, okay? And that's just by looking at this way. Coincidentally enough, which isn't a coincidence at all, I don't believe, knowing this in the timeline that I've put together, that would hypothesize that Nibiru would show up being a year and a half possibly when it does after the seals or towards that time, from the time the tribulation happens. When does the tribulation happen? It starts in the fall. We know this already because it ends in the fall. Okay? That means if you go a year from the year that it happens, boom, let's say the tribulation starts this year like I think it does in the fall. You go a year and a half, now you're 2022, boom, another 6 months to make a year and a half, you're going into February, March, just April time of 2023, all right? That would be when it would show up, when it would line up with what we know of how the seals and the trumpets break forth and at the timelines that they do during the tribulation, okay? My point is that all of the talk of when it shows up that I have got to hear from the inside source and stuff like that, they have known and talked about it, always said the same thing. It shows up sometime between the end of February to into March, possibly April time, okay? What's interesting is when they say that, they don't accord it with a year. They have years, but they're like, whatever year that it is, that's the time it shows up. And that changes things, very interesting enough. That means they don't have this mathematically signed into how many months it has. They know that it shows up at a certain time, but it's always at that time, whatever year that it is. That means somebody has told them the future, okay? Somebody has showed them the future. Somebody has showed them when it happens, all right? However that is, all right, whoever did it, whether it's fallen angels or anything like that, to even have that point that they know that whatever year that it is, that's when it shows up, means they know the same timeline as me. They have a hypothetical idea of how this takes place and how long the seals are and how long the trumpet judgments are, all right? That's very interesting that they know this. And it gets into something that I haven't discussed, and that is the inverted or split version of the more godly close you are, the more information you have, the more evil you are, the more information you have, the closer you get to fallen angels and stuff like that, all right? And it's the people in the middle, it's the worldwide courtroom that are completely oblivious to anything going on, all right? The more darker, the more evil they are, actually the more information they seem to have about things, all right? As well as those who are walking closer with God seem to have more information about things. It's the people in the middle that don't have a clue about jack. It's the same courtroom thing that I've talked about before. It's the jury that doesn't have a clue what's going on. Well, the judge, which is crooked, all right, is playing his part, and the guy in defense, all right, is playing his part. And it really is along the same lines as that. But, all right, from what I know, if this is going to happen, all right, and if this really is the year, that would mean that we would start expecting this thing to show up sometime in 2023, if this is the year the tribulation starts, okay? What would be the things that start happening? Bigger earthquakes, man. Like I say, it's a magnetic system, all right? Just like any other planet or body or solar system or anything like that. They're electric magnetics, all right? The whole thing is held together by magnetics. And when this thing comes through, it's going to start stirring the pot big time, loosening plates and other things like that. And you're going to start seeing more earthquakes. What happens when there's earthquakes and sliding in place? There's also more volcanoes. Tell me what has been happening now over the past few years. The Ring of Fire has been blasting up on a record level of earthquakes. We've seen record level of earthquakes, all of them getting stronger and stronger as this stuff's getting closer. What is also mentioned in the Bible, during those times when it starts getting closer, there would be earthquakes in diverse places, all right, and things along those lines. The same thing that we're talking about right now, which gives absolute credit to the whole system being real, all right, being gigantic and not being some dinky little rock called Apophis that might take out a few satellites. And I quote, okay? I've been completely against this idea the whole time. Another thing is it's lowering the guard. While you're looking at Apophis, the one that could take out a couple satellites, that the Obama administration, the Vatican, and all of them could give a crap less about because they're watching an actual serious problem coming that they know about so they can stay hidden and hide, which is why the people in Six Seals say, hide us from the judgment for its wrath has finally come, and they're realizing, oh crap, it's Judgment Day. They can see this thing in the atmosphere, they can see it coming in, and they're all freaking out. All right, it's no dinky little asteroid or a joke or anything along those lines. It's happening in 2029. This throws off the whole idea. And what really happens is that people start lowering their guard. Oh, there's going to be more time because Tom Horn's a good Christian man, and he thinks that Apophis is coming in 2029, and that's probably wormwood. So since that's going to be a part of the tribulation, we don't have to worry about God coming back right now, which goes completely against everything that he's told people, including myself, that he's about to be here, all right? And it's way sooner than people think, all right? That is the end of the 2021, 2030 agenda, right? By that time, they want to have everybody dead by 2029. This doesn't even leave the other 3.5 years, which come into play after wormwood does show up in the first place, because it's actually before the halfway point of the tribulation, which would mean it would go sometime into 2030 something, way past the regular agenda they have. I'm totally against it. I don't agree with it at all. I think it's a bunch of nonsense, all right? And, the whole thing, like I say, it's nothing but more distractions, all right? As they go on the Jim Baker show and stuff like that, and they talk about this, they're letting people lower their guard and not seeing that this is a lot closer and it's a lot worse. Do never, ever underestimate the absolute catastrophicness of the tribulation. It is not a joke. It It is not something to take lightly. It is not something you survive, all right? By the time you even get to the halfway point before they even release the wrath, all right? And God starts dropping the bowl judgments and stuff like that. The angel literally says, blessed are they that have died in the Lord up to this point, because what comes next, you're not going to want to have anything to do with. This is the absolute scum of the earth that has made it, taking the mark of the beast and everything else, and they're about to get total judgment, all right? Which opens up with turning the ocean into blood along with all the water and stuff like that, all right? People are already dead by that time. I've already broken down 6/8 of the earth's population is dead by the 3.5 year mark, all right? It's more people die in the first half than in the second half, okay? This is why I'm completely against a mid-trib rapture idea, especially the post-trib rapture idea, and why the only thing that points to Revelation 3:10, I'll keep you from the hour of judgment, all right, that's going to try the whole earth, is the pre-tribulation rapture, all right? That's the only one that I've seen, and that's the one that I saw in my vision, too. Things weren't exploding everywhere, at least not yet, when people are taken up, okay? And this whole thing, though, that's taking place right now, it shows the proximity of how close it is, all right? And this gets into what happened in 2019 or 2018. If you remember, in 2018 or 19, whatever it was, and I think it was down in Arizona or New Mexico, yeah, it was New Mexico, the FBI raided that town, kicked everybody out of the town, and shut down the sunspot observatory that they had down there. Coincidentally, at the same time, and I've talked about this before, they shut down the Hubble telescope and all other sun observatory telescopes around the planet at the same time. Excuse me, for a few weeks, okay? Why would they do this? And what would be the point of this? Was it a test run? I don't think so at all. I think at certain angles, you can catch a glimpse of this thing, maybe the way it refracts the light from the sun or a certain orbiting place or whatever. The rest of the time, it's very difficult to see. And they went in and they shut it down because just like the guy said recently, they're not going to tell the public, they're not going to give them a warning. They're just going to let it show up one day and everybody's going to freak out. But that will keep the hystericalness to a minimum, which is what they want. It's already going to be bad enough as it is, but people won't be freaking out as long, which gives the bad guys more time to plan and get ready for themselves, right? Which is what they're planning on doing. It's not a coincidence that they were doing it, they were shutting that down. Wherever this thing is, all right, and they don't have an exact timeline on this thing was created by God, this planet system, this Nibiru dwarf star solar system, right? And it just goes to show his awesome power. He could whip this thing up, and he might have done just that. Everything might have been hunky-dory in the golden age. That's what the bad guys call it. When things were so bad, God had to level everything before the flood. And he whips up this solar system and sends it right through ours, and blasts all their plans. Rahab gets blown to smithereens. Northern crust and all the water on Mars, totally blown into space. All their stuff totally left in sand dunes and ruins, including the pyramids and things that they have up there on Mars. All right, all their structures and stuff like that. The moon gets pelted, blasts stuff up, blows up all the stuff. If you guys have read Dark Mission or anything like that, it has to do with all the structures that they've discovered on the moon and the biodomes and things like that that are on the backside. Totally blasts all of it, destroys the whole thing, and breaks up the Earth's atmosphere and the crust, bringing on the flood and starting everything over again. It wasn't just one little asteroid, it didn't just happen. It was a cleansing of our solar system. And it shows the power of God. He did this with the little planet system that he whipped up. And he might have done it right on the spot. But this thing does have an orbital rotation, and other historians outside of the Bible, including Sumerian texts and things like that, they do discuss this and talk about it. They know about it. And of course the stories have been twisted with them, that the Anunnaki lived on it, fallen angels and stuff like that, and blah, 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 the way that they always do it. Leave it to the History Channel to jack up, all right? But the real story is that it is real. There is recorded records of that people know about it. They go back. It's not a made-up thing. And people that have seen and been able to vet are telling the truth. They actually have seen it on telescopes, all right, back in the early 50s, and they know that it's coming here in a certain time, all right? Like I say, the unspoken truth of it and the things that are going on, the very effect that it takes place, all right? Not only volcanoes and things that are erupting on Mars that's happened over the past few years, the whole magnetic field is getting fluctuated with as this thing approaches closer, as well as the Ring of Fire and other plates that are loosening, causing more volcanoes and earthquakes around the Earth, all right? All of them on a higher level, all right, for no reason whatsoever they can't figure out. The reason why is because something is getting closer, and it ain't frigging Apophis, the dinky little asteroid that looks like a pebble compared to the whole solar system of the Nibiru system, okay? That's the reality of this thing. That means they're not going to tell you about it. You don't know anything about it, all right? It's going to be all kept secret until the last time that it shows up. But The very fact that they built the 21 agenda and 2030 agenda, which incorporates the Nibiru system so that they can shotgun people on the surface of the earth while they hide underground, tells me, since they already know, and this was planned years in advance, that this is when they know that it shows up, between 2021 and 2030, all right? When you look at the death toll, if they want to bring the population down between these two timelines, the only other thing that matches ever is what we read in Revelation, all right? It's an exact comparison from the biblical perspective to what their perspective is. You put them together and it's just different versions of the same story. They are going to kill off the Earth's population, and the whole thing's starting right now. Why do I think that it's this year? Enter the vaccine. Everything that I talked about that vaccine being, is it the equivalent of an injectable HIV, all right? That video was just taken down by YouTube. They gave me a warning, and it was removed. Why would they remove that? It's already been up for 2 months now, okay? It's because I'm hitting very close to home here, all right? I have listened to enough doctors and homeopathic experts and people that actually have studied this stuff. I've had videos sent to me from every direction and angle, and they're all pointing to the same exact thing that I've been talking about. Once this thing gets injected, you're already dead. It's a ticking time bomb. You have 4 to 12 or 14 months, all right? Starting in October, when people started injecting this thing, this is going to roll around to about 12-month period into next fall, or coming this fall right now, which is going to be when the tribulation starts, if it's this year, okay? Since there's no turning back on this, since it's already guaranteed they're going to die, and now experts as well are saying that, yeah, it's only a ticking time bomb. Once it starts reproducing your body, you can't shut it down anymore. It keeps growing and growing and growing, and as your body's fighting it, everybody's is a little bit different, so it's going to be happening at different times. All right, you basically, it gets to the point where it's like, I can't fight this anymore. Dead fish in the river. If you guys have ever seen that before, you hook a fish, you release it. He thinks he's doing good. His mouth hurts. Oh, belly up, and just starts floating down the river. And this is exactly what the human body is going to do. All right, at about a year's time, maybe a little bit longer, maybe a little bit shorter. People are already dying, and they're not keeping. They're not showing these to the public. All right, some people die the very first day that they get it. And I know that that's exactly what it is. The very fact that that's going to start taking place this fall tells me this is the year for the tribulation to start. If this is the year for the tribulation to start, I'm looking at the rapture this spring. That's my golden launch time, all right? This really looks like it's about to happen. It explains why everything's happening the way that it is and why things are getting closer. Knowing that that's going to happen, then we can look at possibly 2023 in early spring to late winter as the Nibiru system showing up. If you're going to heaven, this isn't something you're going to experience. This is something that the world's going to see, okay? But it isn't 2029, and it isn't dinky little Apophis. Even if it was in 2029, if somehow all this got pushed back, I don't even know how that could be possible if you're looking at things the same way that I am. Even if you could, Apophis still want to be in the picture that's so minuscule to what's going to happen, to when wormwood hits, when the fire's falling from the sky, and when the ocean, 1/3 of it gets taken out, as well as rocking the whole Earth's plate system and putting all the islands under the ocean, all right, a worldwide earthquake that shakes everything and kills tons and tons of people, okay? That's not going to happen from dinky little Apophis anyways. That whole Apophis thing is a sideshow joke. I'm totally against it. These are the reasons why, all right? I hope this gives you a little bit better understanding of everything, especially with the system and everything else. Like I said, I've been wanting to talk about it for a few weeks. It really bothers me when people say, oh, Tom Horn, a good Christian man, he doesn't think it's happening until 2029. He has books, so that means he knows more than you, unleashing. You know, the guy's very smart, and there's nothing about him that I'd say that isn't a Christian, and I definitely think that he tries hard and everything else. Does he know everything that I know? I'm going to be honest and blunt. No, he doesn't, okay? There are things that I can do that other people can't. This is where the whole body of Christ comes together with different abilities and things like that. But instead, we're all at ends with each other instead of being able to work together, all right? So I do this alone, by myself, exactly like God asked me to do, okay? And so I continue to do that, all right? Do not be looking at a long distance or lowering your guard thinking this happens in 2029. The way things are looking, and like I say, when you throw in the vaccine and when this thing is going to start killing people off, look at how many people have gotten this around the world. They're already guaranteed dead the second you take that thing, all right? If you start getting up around the quarter of Earth's population, you're looking at death, all right? One of the 4 horsemen. This thing's on a ticking time bomb before it takes off. And the way everything looks like right now, I've seen it all. I've seen the Pope going over there creating Islam in Iraq. I know what they're doing with the church. I know he's the false prophet. I know that it happens within his timeline because he gets tossed alive in a lake of fire in Revelation 19. I mean, I broke this stuff down multiple times, okay? I know that this is happening soon. I know that's what's on my heart. I know that I was told almost time in September 2013, okay? of 2019. Not 13, sorry. September 13, 2019, all right? I was told, almost time. Last time I was told before that was soon, in August, around 21st of 2017. Both of those are split by 2 years, and now we're 2 years from the last time that I was told. Is that a coincidence? Maybe, maybe not. Because all I know is that I'm getting up to the 7-year mark since I first had the rapture vision, all right, 7 years ago. And I think there might be something that's not really a coincidence. I think that it's all lining up, considering where I am right now and what's going on, and how this is lining up with how my vision and how it keeps unfolding. I really think this is the year. I really think this is the time, okay? And don't let anybody tell you that Apophis makes the point that the rapture and the tribulation aren't going to start until 2029 or some distant time like that. Don't even play that game. Don't lower your guard. It's absolutely ridiculous. I hope this breaks it down in a way that you can understand and realize that this system is real. I'm not making it up. Either are the people that actually have got to see it that I vet. This is my specialty, okay? I read people's minds. I look into their hearts, all right? I do it better than anybody else. I've never seen anything that comes close, all right? This is a gift that God gave me. I use it and I'm sharing it with you people. I usually keep it under wraps because the enemy also watches this channel, all right? They listen to what I say and what I do. So I don't speak all the time because I don't want them to know all my abilities and all my skills, all right? It's not for them to know. They don't deserve it. I believe keeping the hidden hand right up until you strike your opponent, okay? And that's the reason that I do this. And I've always been that way. I like training in secret, all right? But I am telling you the truth. These people are not lying. They're not making it up. This is a real system. And I know this is what the Vatican's watching with the Lucifer telescope. All right? They wouldn't have built that and put it there and gone through all the symbolism and other things like that and occult rituals that they've done for that, okay? They know exactly what they're doing. And everything is lining up to that point, including the whole CERN shutdown timeline, all right? And how they're working on it again and planning to open up here in the near future, right? Which lines up at the same time at the 2-year mark when the tribulation and they open up the abyss. I really think this correlates to that as well. All of it is lining up like never before. Don't look to 2029. That's way too far off. God's coming sooner than that. He's not joking around. When he says almost time, he's not joking around. I won't hesitate to share what he tells me. If he tells me almost time, I'm going to say it, all right? And I'm not going to think around or think that it's 2030 or 50 years off, right? I believe he knows what he's talking about. Obviously, he's making the rules. He's running the operation, okay? And he knows everything and what's best, right? And I'm following his instruction and doing what I'm supposed to be doing, okay? There's a little bit more understanding of this Nibiru system, right? And how the whole thing works and how it's lining up and why it's relevant to what's taking place and how this will play a role during the tribulation, about 1.5 years starting after it starts, okay? And how it correlates to it and everything like that. It's nothing to mess around with. It's not a joke. It's going to absolutely totally leave devastation and everything. Just one of the many things that people underestimate that happen during the tribulation. It's not a joking time, and it's nothing that I won't have anything to do with. I want to go home to be with God and get the heck out of here because I'm not an idiot. I wouldn't even try to be in the tribulation. All preparation and thing you do, I think it's very smart. I've prepped for many years, and it's all for any sort of catastrophic events that happen leading to the tribulation, but not the tribulation. Once the tribulation starts, your good is gone anyways. It's already a ticking time bomb, all right? I have no intention of being in it, all right? Hopefully this helps, gives you a little bit more understanding of it, like I say, and God bless. I'll catch you next time on the Alicia, and I'll see you in the air. Bye.